Throughout history, freethinkers have outraged the religious with their wacky ideas about the virtues of free speech, reason, and of course, eating babies. Now, God is dying, and it's time to dispose of his remains. From the pits of hell, Satan sends two puppets of the imperialist West and the Zionist Jews against God, Islam, and tiny kittens to bring you their propaganda and conspire for a new world order. This is Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment with Ali Rizvi and Armin Navabi.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment. My name is Ali Rizvi, and with me, as always, almost always, is Armin Navabi. Armin, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
I am really good. Thank you very much. And so, we're going to get right into it today. We're talking about something that is absolutely fascinating, what's happening with right now around the world, and that is Iran. And we're going to be talking about the future of Iran. Luckily, we have Armin Navabi here. Armin Navabi is an Iranian-Canadian activist who has a lot of contacts actually in Iran, who he speaks to regularly. So he has a lot of perspectives on the situation there that you may not hear at other places. So I think that that's going to be really, really interesting to get into. So here's the update. Recently, there was the 42nd anniversary of Iran's 1979 revolution. It's been 42 years since that happened. And the current president of Iran, Hassan Rouhani, urged the United States to restore the 2015 nuclear deal, the deal that essentially Trump tore apart and got everybody out of. So now Iran is wanting to restore it, and they're saying they want an end to the sanctions. Right now, the sanctions are really, really crippling them, and they're saying, they've actually said, quote, diplomacy is the only way forward. Now, this was Rouhani's last speech before the election in June. So Rouhani has completed his full term as president, his 2 terms as president. So there will be a new successor that he's going to have after the June elections. So this is the last speech of this kind that he's going to give. And at the same time, Iran's intelligence minister, there's a man named Mahmoud Alavi, warns that Iran is going to proceed with making a nuclear weapon. They actually openly said they will make a nuclear weapon if these sanctions remain in place. And what's more is the International Atomic Energy Agency, or the IAEA, has now confirmed that Iran is now it has begun to produce uranium metal. So there's a new administration right now in the U.S., the Biden administration. They've been kind of cautious about this. They're a little hesitant about returning to things the way that they were, because things are very different. Now you have Israel's alliances with a lot of the Arab nations like the UAE and Sudan and Bahrain, and the lifting of airspace restrictions over Saudi Arabia and so on. So there's a lot of things that have completely changed since the Iran deal, the Obama's Iran deal, was actually inked. And so these are really interesting developments. And of course, we've had the killing of Soleimani. We've had the assassination of the nuclear scientist, Fakhrizadeh. Yeah. So there have been a lot of things that are different. So let's start with this. The Iran deal, Trump ripped it up. You would expect that Biden might want to restore it. Why is the Biden administration hesitant or slow to get back into the Iran deal? What's going on, Armin?
Okay, there's so much going on. I don't even know where to start right now. Okay,
that's why that was the whole purpose of the primary. I'm really, really, really fascinated by this. I'm interested to see what's going to happen.
Can you add to your summary before we go to the analysis what was said in the interview by by Iran's head of intelligence agency, the Alavi guy? Because that is like maybe we should start with that. Dive into that, because that interview live on Iranian TV was earth-shattering for two reasons: one for internally, one externally. You want to? You want to give the date on when that happened and what was the significance of it?
So, no, I don't have that off the top of my head. So I'm going to let you do that. But I want to say the one thing that I think that's really significant about this is I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Iran has actually openly said that they're building a nuclear weapon ever.
Until now.
And then this guy, right, and this isn't just this isn't just any dude, right? This is like Iran's intelligence chief, right?
This is like the head of. This is kind of like the head of CIA in Iran.
Like the head of the CIA, right? He comes out and he says, if the sanctions remain in place, Iran will make a nuclear weapon. So he's saying that outright. This has never been said by anybody in Iran before. And
if you're not shocked by this, is because you're so naive to think like, well, of course they're building a nuclear weapon. Like you have no idea how. Like if you're like, well, of course, that's what I assumed they wanted to do. So you are like so naive. You have not been following anything. If you're not like if you don't understand how earth-shattering this is, right? Because this is the Islamic Republic for the past, I don't know how many years has it been since the beginning of the nuclear deal and before it. They're like, yeah, we want nuclear energy for peaceful reasons, right? We even had Khamenei issuing a fatwa. What year was that? That was what? Yeah, I forgot when. That was like many years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
He came out and said he issued a fatwa. I think it was in 2000.
That was against building nuclear weapons, right?
Yeah, against the nuclear weapons.
Because that's not what they do.
Saying that this is haram.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so apparently it started in 2013. Officially, he's okay. I'm gonna look what year was this, right? But
yeah,
he officially issued a fatwa. That's a huge deal. For a supreme leader, a supreme religious leader, that his word is like the word of God, saying having nuclear weapons is haram, right? So this is like a competition between taqiyya and fatwa right now. We don't know which one is stronger. Apparently the taqiyya, these are Shias do taqiyya. Apparently we learned that doesn't mean that they're not going to have nuclear weapon, because every single person that has been defending Iran's side, not just Iran's government, right, but not just the Islamic Republic itself, but every other Westerner, liberals, leftists, even conservatives who are saying, like, defending, like, oh yeah, Iran is doing this for peaceful reasons. They constantly focus on how they even Kerry, right, use this fatwa by Khamenei to be like, look, this is Khamenei speaking. They can't go back on this. Like, this is a fatwa, right? Like, this man's word is the word of God. Like, it's treated like the word of God by the government in Iran. So if he says this is haram, like they basically tied their own hands. Like, there's no way to undo this. And Iran's government, I have to say Iran's government, not Iran. Iran's government has been insisting for years now that they never want a nuclear weapon. This has nothing to do with having a nuclear weapon. I mean, we have been saying that is a lie, because and we even have like recordings apparently now to show that we were right. I mean, our assumption was that they don't want to have a nuclear weapon. They just want to be 2 steps away from having one, so that if they ever need one, they could go from not having one to having one. That gives being in that situation gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you the deterrent, power of having a nuclear weapon, but it also has all the claims of us. We want nuclear energy for peaceful purposes. All the benefits of having international relationships, of not having a nuclear weapon. So if you could be in a limbo situation that you don't have it, but you could have it at a moment's notice, that would be the ideal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And apparently we were like, game theory wise, that was the best situation to be. And given recent information coming out from Mossad's intelligence shows that we were right about that, right? But now this is like a major escalation, because this is a shock to me, because even if they wanted that in secret, coming out and publicly on live TV and announcing to the world, like, hey, you know what? Yes, our leader, our supreme leader, issued a fatwa and said that this is haram and all, and we will never do this. But what he specifically said that is, if we get cornered, if you corner a cat in and the cat has, he specifically said a cat, right? And the cat doesn't have any option. The cat might do some crazy things that it's not the cat's fault if the cat does some crazy things that you push them into. Again, this is not my. If the analogy is stupid, it's not my analogy. It's his analogy.
Iran's a cat. But let me read the quote actually.
Okay.
Read it in English. So this is what Alavi said. He said, "Our nuclear program is a peaceful program, and the supreme leader clearly said in his fatwa that producing nuclear weapons is against religious law, and the Islamic Republic will not pursue it and considers it forbidden. But let me tell you, if you corner a cat, it might behave differently than a cat roaming free. If they push Iran in that direction, it would not be Iran's fault, but the fault of those who pushed Iran."
Right. So we have, for the first time, the head of Iran's intelligence agency live on national TV threatening the world with a nuclear weapon. This is coming from inside Iran, and not just like this random general or this other staff member of Zarif's department or something like that. This is the head of Iran's intelligence agency. Okay?
I want to say Iran, like current estimates show that Iran's about 2 years away from making a nuclear weapon.
That's according to Israel.
That's according to Israel. Israel's been, I don't know, Netanyahu's been talking about that since the 90s. They're 1 year away, they're 2 years away, there's 4 years away. He's been going on and on and on the whole time. But so here's the thing. So the question was, why is everyone sort of, why are they waiting on this? Why are they still hesitant to act, right? Especially the Biden administration. Well, I think it's because it clearly shows weakness. Like look, like there's a lot of times that I guess the U.S. did call Iran's bluff. So one thing that we learned through the Trump administration, right, whatever his motivations, but I think that this was useful to learn, is that you could really go and provoke them in a massive way, and they just don't retaliate. Like they killed Soleimani. Okay, they killed Soleimani. He was like a hero. He's an icon in Iran, right? It's like killing just a major. The U.S. just went in and assassinated him. They killed him, and the response of it, like we remember the response, but this is barely anything. There's like a ceremonial bombing, and they warned them ahead of time, and it's nothing. Iran didn't do anything. Then this guy, Fakhrizadeh, right, did that. Nothing, right? And now what's happening, right, is that they want the deal back. They want that deal back, and they're saying, "Yeah, we won't do that time. Just please take off the sanctions. Take off the sanctions." Right? Otherwise, they're flailing around. They're flailing around. So there has to be. It's just bizarre to me that Iran's kind of it's so obvious that they're showing weakness. To me, it's just really strange. And what are they thinking when they're doing this? Are they just desperate and they have no choice? The cat cornered.
Yeah, so I can give you, let me see, I just made a list while you were talking. 7 possible reasons why Biden is not going all in with like, hey, let's get back to the deal, okay? Again, these are things as they are right now. Things might change, okay? Very fast. Things are ever since Biden was like, became president, things have been moving really, really fast, okay? Like things that I thought like we're going to see on year 1, year 2, year 3, they're just like, we're seeing it happening on week 1, week 2, week 3. So
and they've been pleasantly surprising.
Right.
Pleasantly surprising.
Yes, this also, a lot of people thought like Biden is just going to like bend over backwards to get like with Iran to get back into the deal. And it hasn't so far. It seems like it has been the opposite, right? So this is actually all right. So before I give you maybe the 7 reasons, Biden was asked outright, like, are you going to go back to the deal unless Iran makes the first move and abides by the agreement? And Biden said no, like just a short answer, just like, nope, we're not going to do it. And I was like, what? Like, so, but like, this is like so shocking to so many people, because a lot of people's understanding was like, okay, Iran was abiding by the deal. Iran's government. Every time I say Iran, just say Iran's government, okay? And United States under Trump pulled out. So this is United States' fault. So they need to come back in without expecting anything from Iran's government, right? And Biden is like, nope, we're not going to do that. You have to go back to because Iran's government started pulling out of like started enriching again, and like getting closer and closer, like pass some laws in their Congress to show that they're moving away from the deal, and get enriching more and more, and basically trying to get to a position that made them look tougher, that make Biden think like, okay, like they have more levers to pull against Biden. We're like, look, we're like, we're moving away. Remove the sanctions, or else like you're gonna be like. Biden is like trying to not flinch, right? So this is like a game of chicken being played with Biden, and Biden is like, yeah, I'm not gonna play your game, which is amazing. But so a lot of people are like, yeah, Biden, you need to go back to the deal without any asking for anything. You guys pulled out. You guys need to go back in. And Biden's like, no, you guys have to make the first move. You guys have to go back abiding by everything in the deal before we can talk. And it's very interesting because, I have like, okay, so the reasons might be is because it seems like Iran's government was trying to bully Biden into a position for them to go back to the deal fast. Like Iran's government wasn't saying come back to the deal. Iran's government was like, you have 2 weeks. And Biden's administration was like, we're in no rush. We can wait. We can wait to see how you guys behave. And we're like, no, if you don't do it, like Iran's government, like don't do this now. This is an opportunity loss for you guys. And Biden administration is like, nope, we're good right now. We could wait. We can see what's gonna happen. So I think one might be like because Iran's government was trying to act tough and all, and I think like Biden's administration was accused a lot before the election that they're going to be weak compared to Trump's aggression and stuff. And I think Biden is like showing that no, we're not going to be bullied around. Yes, we want to go back. We want to undo a lot of the things that Trump did, but that doesn't mean that we're going to be like weak against our enemies, right? So that might be one reason. One other reason why it might be because Iran's missile program. A lot of people, I mean, as much as a lot of people, even so many people that think Obama's deal with Iran was like really good, even those people think like maybe it should have included the missile programs and stuff like that. Like some people, the Trump administration's criticism of Obama's deal, some people that are not with Trump administration and are even anti-Trump think like, yeah, that's like letting Iran get away with that is too much, right? So I think there are, again, inside the Biden's administration, there's a lot of competing thoughts as well. But there are some people that think like, now that we pulled out of it, if we want to go back in, maybe we should try to push for like getting Iran's missile program in as well. So there's that element as well. Another element is that Europe seems to be becoming more and more aggressive against Iran's government. And Biden really values international relations and moving alongside other countries when they're taking positions, like unlike Trump, like, oh, America alone, America first. Biden really wants to focus on maintaining that international relationship with United States allies. And it seems like France and Germany are becoming really, really aggressive against Iran, because Iran's government was trying to like act tough to get Biden to bend the knee. But not only it's not getting Biden to bend the knee, it seems like by acting all tough, it's using a lot of its Europeans. And, the Europeans countries are feeling more free to act aggressive against Iran because Trump is not there anymore. So it doesn't seem like they are working with Trump on this, right? And Biden wants to be on the same wavelength with these other countries, maybe. So especially France now, that is saying like, oh yeah, by the way, if we're going back to the nuclear deal, Macron is saying we should include Israel and Saudi Arabia. And like Iran's government, like, what? If Macron, did you hear that, Ali? Macron was like, we need to include Israel and Saudi Arabia in negotiation, in the new negotiation. And Iran's government is like, what is happening? What is happening? Like, you guys pulled out. You guys just come. What are you talking about? Just come back right in.
The thing is, no, I know, and you should go on with the rest of the reasons because this is totally fascinating. But I just don't think. I mean, I think the Biden administration knows. They know that the deal has to be different. They know that they have more of an upper hand than they did before.
Right.
Okay. And they know that the sanctions are really crippling. I mean, remember, it was the sanctions in the first place that got Iran to make the first nuclear deal too, right? It got Iran there, and it got Iran to agree to it. Now, not only do they have more leverage over Iran, not only does Israel have all of these incredible economic alliances with the richest, the most economically powerful Arab countries in the region, and that's been a recent development. So it's not just that, but Iran has also shown its weaknesses. Iran has also shown that it is not going to retaliate, even if you kill, one of its top military people like Soleimani. It's not going to there's not much that it can do. Those weaknesses are apparent. The fact that Iran bluffs a lot is apparent. And you have these new alliances. So I think that the Biden administration, it'd be ridiculous for them to go back. Like, I think if they went and they called Obama, like, what do you think we should do? Obama would probably say, yeah, I don't think, I think, you got to negotiate a whole new deal with them now. You got to do a whole new thing because the whole paradigm has shifted. The whole geopolitical paradigm in that region, like, it's completely different now than it used to be 4 years ago. And a lot of that is actually thanks to Trump.
Actually, I was just going to say that. But I was just going to say that because it's like, if you actually notice to Biden's administration's criticism of everything that Trump left behind includes a lot of things, but it doesn't include Trump's maximum pressure on Iran's government and the deal between like Saudi Arabia and Israel and UAE's getting close to each other. You don't see that much of a pushback against that. Like, it seems like Biden's administration is gonna take full advantage.
Yeah, and it's not just them. Sorry to interrupt this, but okay. So listen, there's the election I mentioned. There's an election happening in June. Rouhani's term is almost up.
Yeah,
so his new successor will almost certainly be Hussein Dagan. Why is he going to be the Hussein Dagan? Am I pronouncing it right? Because he's the only one running. Right. We're
gonna get but actually before we get to the election, because I have the upcoming elections on my note to get to, because
that's fine. I just want to quote something he said. This actually came out just I think yesterday. Is that he came out? This guy Hussein Dagan, the candidate, he said that Biden's policies are the same as Trump's. Okay, he said that. Hassan Rouhani, right, the current president, came out, condemned Joe Biden, saying, well, we've seen no goodwill. I mean, there's no change in the thing. Biden's policy is pretty much the same as Trump. And they're right. They're right. Like, the Biden administration is pretty much, at this point, the fundamental aspects of the learnings from the Trump policy, they're kind of carrying that forward, at least until now.
Well, I mean, they're not carrying it forward. They're taking advantage of what Trump did.
Well, because okay, that's a better way to put it. Yes. Yeah.
Because Iran's government is desperate right now, and that was another reason. And because Iran's government is desperate, and they're losing hope in Biden, that's one reason. And the Biden administration see that. And when your opponent is weak, you ask for more. A lot of people think like, "Oh, this is unfair. This is unfair." Iran was complying to the deal. It was the United States that pulled out. So if they're going back to the deal, why they're asking for more? Why are they not just jumping right into it? Why are they waiting for Iran to stop to comply by the deal before the United States go back? Well, who said this has to be fair? Who said this has to be fair? Your enemy is weak and you take advantage. You ask for more. Trump did many mistakes. This is something right now that could work in your advantage. Okay. Another reason, Biden, by the way, everything we say right now, I just want to say, might change over one thing. Like, it could be like, there could be one attack on United States embassy in Baghdad, or the Houthis might do something crazy in Hormuz, all of this might turn on its head. Okay, we're just talking about things that as they are right now. Okay, this another thing is Biden. So Biden, I mentioned it, he seems to be very much focusing on valuing international relationships, right? And so if Europe is moving towards being more aggressive against the Islamic Republic, Biden wants to be with that. Another thing Biden values a lot, given that he was in the Senate and he is the Senate, okay? He really much values the Senate and the way, and the Senate is not very pro this deal. And if they want to support Biden and his deal, they want a lot of things from the deal, a lot more than what the deal was asking from Iran's government before. So that's and Biden really values the Senate and really wants to do this in partnership with the Senate. So that's another reason why Biden is not jumping with 2 feet into this deal. I do. At some point, let me know if there's some things, other things you want to say, because I do want to jump back into some. We're talking right now about the internal politics within the Biden administration, and I do want to do a little bit of a dig deeper into that, because there are within Biden administration itself there's some internal struggle over how this deal should look like, and how the Biden administration should behave. But also within Iran's politics, there's a lot more internal struggle, which a lot of them have become apparent quite recently. So I don't know which direction you want to go into, but I'm going to let you speak for a while before I go.
Yeah, no, actually, go ahead and continue. I'm actually curious about. Well, first of all, I want to ask you something. The way that these guys are talking when they're saying that, okay, that Biden is just continuing what Trump is going to do, and if they want to get back into the deal, we need guarantees that they're not going to violate it the way they did last time and all this. They're acting like the Biden administration wants to go back to the deal the way that it was. That's what Iran's rhetoric right now. It seems that, hey, well, if you want the deal again, we'll give it to you, but we need guarantees.
Right.
It's always making it seem like the Biden administration wants to go back into the deal exactly the way that it was.
Yeah, and to be clear, the Biden administration can go back like this. Like, all the Biden administration needs right now to go back is a few executive orders, and everything Trump did would disappear. They could do that. Like, they don't need anything, but they're not doing that. So that's amazing that they're not doing that.
They're not. Right? Why? So this is all just bravado on Iran's part, the rhetoric?
Okay. No, that's what they thought. They thought that this is going to be quick, because they're so desperate for money right now, that they want the sanctions to be removed quickly. So they were like prepared, like they saw a Biden administration coming. So they were like, let's become a bit more aggressive, both when it comes to foreign policy and also enriching uranium, so that when the Biden administration comes, we have like a good hand. Like, we're negotiating with the Biden administration from a much stronger position, and they would be desperate for us to stop enriching uranium. They would be desperate for us to do this, and be like, okay, please, let's go back to the deal. And like, no, only if you remove all the sanctions, right? And that's not working out for them. The problem is that right now we have Iran's. Okay, so it's very interesting, because Zarif. Okay, let me tell you, a lot of people, when it comes to Iran's politics, a lot of people see two groups of two forces, which is the reformists and the radical. What do you call the fundamentalists, right?
Hardliners.
The hardliners, yeah, that's a better term. Hardliners versus reformists, and then the people, like, that's how most people see it. It's like the people which hate both of them, and then you have the reformists and you have the hardliners, right? And there's a huge struggle between the reformers and the hardliners. However, it's not like that anymore. The reformers are becoming more and more irrelevant. when it comes to power, especially when it comes to this upcoming election. It seems like they're going to be losing, and everyone hates them. The hardliners hate them, and the people hate the reformists, right? So the more interesting struggle that is coming up is the struggle within hardliners, which I get back to in soon. But so if you think about the presidency right now, which is Rouhani and all his administration represents the reformists, right? So, and Khamenei and everybody and the IRGC, they represent the hardliners, right? So when you had this, so the two main guys that is relevant for us today is Zarif and Alavi. Okay, Zarif is Iran's foreign minister, and because he's a minister, obviously he is part of the Rouhani, part of picked by the president, part of the government, and that means he's part of the reformists, right? So, and again, this is so much detail. So he's one of the ones that both the people hate and the hardliners hate because he's one of the Rouhani's administration, right? Part of the Rouhani administration. So he came out recently and he suggested that, hey, how about Iran, like Iran's government and US government go back to the deal at the same time? And he was like, he was destroyed from all sides, right? Because Khamenei came out, and this is very interesting because it shows, it screams, hey, internal conflicts, like advertising internal conflict within Iran's government to the whole world. Because Khamenei came out and said, no, screw that. We're not going to jump into the deal at the same time. United States has to come back to the deal, remove the sanctions, and guarantee that what Trump did will never happen again. Like have something that show that this will never happen again, and only if we feel comfortable with everything that the Biden administration is doing, then maybe we'll go back to the deal. Okay, so Zarif like was ridiculed. Like, look, you're saying like the foreign policy, the foreign minister is like nothing. Like in Iran, the foreign minister has no influence over foreign policy. It's Khamenei is the supreme leader, and it's the IRGC. It was Qasem Soleimani and basically Khamenei, used to be Qasem Soleimani, that decided foreign policy. Like his irrelevancy was advertised to the world, and he came like, "Oh yes. I meant that I would like." He tried to like back. It was too late, but he tried to like step back from that. But Biden also is saying that, yes, screw that, Khamenei. We're not only we're not going to move forward and remove the sanctions and come back to the deal and comply with everything ahead of you, and then signal to you that it's okay for you to come back to the deal. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do it at the same time as you either. We're going to wait for you to first comply to the deal. And then after you comply with everything to the deal, we're going to come back to the deal. So now you have Khamenei saying this, like, no, Americans have to do it first. And Biden saying, like, no, the Iran's government has to do it first. The problem is that the Biden administration is more flexible in changing things than Khamenei, because when Khamenei, as the supreme religious leader of the country, comes and says that this is how it's going to be, that means this is how it's going to be. Like, there's no changing that, right? This is like is revelation from God or something. Like again, that's not what they say, but that's how it's treated. Right? Khamenei doesn't come say like, hey, I was wrong. Like that doesn't happen, right? So it's like kind of like tied. Like he just comes and says things, just like his vaccine policies. Like, oh, we're never going to bring vaccines from the United States and Britain. Like, there's no way to undo that. Like, you just basically tied Iran's foreign policy's hand behind their back. Like, everybody, like, this is the new reality.
So just really, really quickly. So this is a stalemate.
Yes.
Stalemate right now is that Iran is saying that lift the sanctions and we'll go back to the deal. And the U.S., the Biden administration saying, if you want sanction relief, go back to the deal first.
Yes. It's basically both sides are saying you first, right?
Right. But the thing is that with Biden, I mean, if I'm Iran, right, I'm like, you're the guys who violated it. You're the guys who pulled out, and you come back in first. But he's saying no. He's like, no, go back to
it seems unfair. It seems unfair but I don't care if you're being unfair against the Islamic Republic. If you're being unfair against the Islamic Republic, I'm like, good. That means you're doing something right.
And
Okay?
when you're talking about reviving the nuclear deal, we're not really reviving it. They're actually trying to get Iran. I mean, they're going to go back to the negotiating table, right? They're going.
They want more. And
redraft
Iran's
it.
government is like, and Iran's government is like, negotiating what? We already negotiated. We have everything. Just go back to the deal that we have. That's what Iran's government was.
So basically, the Biden administration saying no, we're not going to lift sanctions unless you go back to the deal. So supposing Iran goes back to the deal, they're like, oh, thank you. Okay, now we're going to start talking about lifting sanctions, and now let's negotiate a new deal, right? And that's what's going to happen, and they're going to do it because they can.
Yes, because they can, right?
Okay.
So I really like what Biden administration is doing right now. I just hope they don't change it, right? They're like really pushing Iran's government around right now, and I hope
think it's perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
I just hope they don't change it. A lot of people think like this is like a window of opportunity that Biden administration is going to lose before the election, because right now the main people that are like desperately pushing for Iran to like bend the knee a little bit are the reformists, right? Khamenei is like the hardliners, the IRGC and Khamenei. They are the ones that are making things difficult for the reformers. Keep telling the Americans, you first, because the reformers are like, hey, can we do this at the same time? The hardliners are like, no, them first, right? So, but now we're going to lose the reformist element pretty soon. After the upcoming Iran election, both the government, both the presidency and the supreme leader, everything is going to be hardliner. So a lot of people are saying that if Biden administration loses this opportunity, this small window to deal with the reformists, then it's going to be impossible after the election. However, the response to that is like the fact that you think that the reformers have any say, it's a joke anyways. Like nothing is going to change. The reformers have no say anyway. Like before the election, after the election, nothing is going to change, right? But some other people are like saying, well, if the presidency comes and they're hardliners as well, and they're very aggressive about what they want from the Biden administration, as much as the presidency, it makes it very difficult for Biden administration to go back to the deal. And actually, that's good. That means that the Biden administration has more of an excuse to show people how unreasonable Iran's government is being, right? So I do want to mention some bigger signals, because again, this whole Khamenei, the hardliners versus reformists, most people know about, and how publicly is because it's really weak foreign policy for you to show division to your enemies. You know what I mean? Like United States, for example. A lot of times, people who follow United States politics, I understand a lot of people say like, oh, okay, we fight internally, Republican versus Democrat, but a lot of people call for like, at least when we're dealing with other countries, we need to show a united front, because like there's this philosophy that you don't show division to your enemies, right? And now when Khamenei comes out and basically contradicts his own the country's foreign minister, this is like a weak position that is being advertised, right? But this was done intentionally, apparently. There are unintentional advertisement of division between more powerful elements in Iran's government. And so the Iran's intelligence agencies, there's two of them, okay? There's one, which was the Ministry of Intelligence, which was this Alavi was the head of, right? And then there is one under IRGC, okay? And so imagine like you have the CIA and an more ideological CIA. I mean, they're both very ideological, but imagine one being even more ideological than the other one, right? And to a lot of people, Iran's intelligence agency, even the one under the presidency, it's a little bit more independent from the presidency than the rest of the president's cabinet and whatever picks and stuff, right? Because it's such a important like intelligence agencies are some of the most powerful, you know, they're centers of power inside every government, right? They are they're okay. So, but what the part of the speech that wasn't being highlighted. So Alavi came out on live TV and he said that Iran might be forced to consider a nuclear weapon, right? And that was huge revelation, right? But that, as much as that was a big news for external audiences from Iran, internally in that same speech, he said something that internally it got more attention than even the part that he talked about getting a nuclear weapon, because a lot of people inside Iran assume that the government wants a nuclear weapon anyway, right?
What did he say internally?
So he said that Fakhrizadeh's assassination, okay, that they knew about it, and they knew it was going to happen, and they even knew the location of when it's going to happen 5 days ahead of time.
He said this?
He said that. And he said that the reason why they couldn't, but he said they didn't know what time it's going to happen. They just knew the location, which when a lot of people are like, well, if you knew the location, why did you even let him go there, right? But he said that they communicated this information to the armed forces, and he specifically used like armed forces instead of naming the entity. And I'll let you. And he said that, but they didn't take it seriously, and they didn't follow up on it, and that's why Fakhrizadeh unfortunately died. This is very significant because it shows, first of all, such weakness, right? Such pathetic.
It's like those reality shows, like, I don't know, what is it, Jersey Shore or something, where like there's all this infighting and stuff going on inside the house.
Right, because the assumption is that the armed forces that he's not mentioning is the IRGC. Okay, so this is again a struggle between two separate intelligence agencies inside Iran, and the war between them that a lot of people assume. Like the image that you want to send to the world is that our intelligence agencies work with each other, they're united, they share information with each other, but they're not. They're in conflict with each other, and they have different agendas. And this guy comes on and this was something that people assumed, but this guy comes and broadcasts this information, this division, to the country on live TV. Okay, that was very significant because a lot of Iranians said that had this assumption. They're like, now they're saying it, like they're saying the quiet part out loud, right? That there's a conflict between them, right? The conflict
specifically this one guy is Mahmoud Alavi.
I mean, the head of their
the head of intelligence. He's saying
the head of one of the intelligence agencies is saying that we shared this information with the assuming, like he didn't name them.
No wonder the Biden administration is taking its time.
Right.
I mean, you're seeing, okay, there's a country, their intelligence, their two intelligence things are in conflict with each other. They're desperate. They're flailing around. They're saying that, okay, we'll build a nuclear weapon. They're saying that they knew that this guy was going to be assassinated, and they still couldn't stop it.
Right.
Their top nuclear, they could not stop it. They knew the location. They couldn't stop it. This is weakness. They shot down their own plane. They barely retaliated when two of their heroes were assassinated by foreign powers. This is weakness upon weakness upon weakness upon weakness.
Right. Like there's the struggle between the two intelligence agencies, that the fight is so much that the consequences of that is that you knew that your head of your top scientist, nuclear scientist, was about to be assassinated, and you still didn't manage to stop it. Like that is huge, right? So
I mean, it's no wonder that. I mean, this is stunning to me. This is no wonder they're so cavalier. So let me just talk about how it's not just about what Biden said, right, but it's about how he did it. So the CBS News is interviewing him. It's Nora O'Donnell. Okay, and she asks him, "quote will the U.S. lift sanctions first in order to get Iran back to the negotiating table? End quote. Biden responded, no. That's it. Just one word in an interview. He's like, no. And then she asked, yeah, she said, do they have to stop enriching uranium first? And then Biden didn't even say anything. He just nodded. He's like, yeah. He didn't even say yes or anything. He's like, and that's it. That was his answer.
That nod was being shared in Iran, but with the subtitles in Persian. So like I know a lot of Americans were not paying attention to that, but that is like in Iran, everyone's jaw is dropping because everybody because everybody thought like secretly, the Iran's administration, they kept on saying like there's no difference between, even before Biden when they were saying we don't care who wins, Trump or Biden, our policy is the same, it's irrelevant to us. But everybody assumed that behind the scenes they're all like dancing and so happy that Biden win. This is finally means that the sanctions will be removed. So that nod by Biden, people who are Iranians who are anti the government are like celebrating that, like they're laughing at the Islamic Republic. It's a huge middle finger.
One thing
they're loving it.
His being old, I think he is very old school. Like he's been involved in foreign policy for 40 years.
Yes.
But I think he really knows how the game is played in a way that a lot of the young types, the more idealistic types didn't. I think he understands have a bit of a grasp on the reality of it.
Yeah. Biden has a long history dealing with that region specifically.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. He was part of he used to go to, like in Pakistan when they had the elections, he used to go and oversee them. And he was one of the senators, right, that used to go and oversee them. So he's very intimately familiar with the workings of that region, the little cultural things, even things like he knows exactly how those gestures, like just nodding and everything, how that's going to resonate with the public over there.
And he understands the complexities, the nuances. I mean, my worry was like, does he understand it? Like, I mean, he does, but given his old age, is he still the same man that he was?
Well, this is where his old age is a bit of a plus because he's still like an old. He's an old dude when it comes to he's very old school when it comes to.
But he has the experience. I mean, whether you agree with his position or you don't, he knows the complexities. Like that's the main difference between Biden and Trump. Right. Like these different moving parts, these different elements, the internal politics, not just in Iran, but also in Saudi Arabia, in UAE, in Bahrain. Biden understands these. Like Trump had no
clue. The way he's playing Saudi Arabia is I'm stunned. So since we last did that call, and I'm just going to say this really quick because we're probably going to have another episode on this. But Loujain al-Hathloul has been released. She was expected to be released in March. 5-year sentence expected to be released in March. She's already been released this week. He's frozen arms sales to Saudi Arabia, and he has withdrawn support for the U.S. The war in Yemen. I don't know what that means long term, but it's kind of interesting. I'm just talking in the context of what we're seeing with Iran. That it just seems like the U.S. suddenly has a whole bunch of leverage over places and countries that they didn't really before, or they never used it before. And Iran is probably the top of the list for that. But listen, can I ask
you? Slowly.
Yeah. We've got a few minutes left. I want to make sure you get to, you were saying that the internal split within the Biden administration.
Right.
Is happening. So yeah, if you could get into that.
Okay, and then I want to go back to the internal split between the hardliners. Okay, within the Biden's administration, we have Anthony Blinken, who is the United States now Secretary of State, and he's also seeming to be very aggressively demanding more things from Iran's government. Before they move any further, right? So that's the main person that you want to look at, right? However, and also Biden's partners in the Senate, they're also very, very anti. They are the people in Senate, both Mendez and also Chuck Schumer. They didn't even vote for the first deal, right? So and Biden wants their partnership going forward, right? However, if you look at the other side, some other picks, William Joseph Burns, the new CIA head, he's like more open to negotiation. But the main person that you want to pay attention to is Biden's pick for the special envoy to Iran. That guy is Rob Malley. I don't know how to say his last name, right? But that guy was very, very open to talking. I mean, he got in trouble years back for negotiating with Hamas, but his philosophy with Iran's government is also getting back into the deal. No, very anti-hawkish. Is that, I don't know if you right? So they want somebody like that, really wants the deal to be for United States to just go back to the deal with no extra negotiations, no new demands, like that guy. And for Biden to pick that person as their, as a special, that happened by the way before Biden came out and said nope, we're not going to go back in. So when that, I don't know if it has been approved yet, but that's their pick right now. Okay, so you have to pay attention to that person, right? Because that was originally when Biden picked that guy, a lot of people from Iran's government saw this as a huge signal that everything is moving forward and the Biden administration is just going to move right in to the deal and accept everything, right? Go back in, sanctions removed, because that's what somebody like Rob Malley would want, right? Based on his history, based on his agenda, based on his role. I mean, these people that I'm mentioning, right? Malley and Burns, they were part of the original, these are people that were heavily involved in the first deal with Obama. And a lot of Biden administration's pick right now are people that were involved in creating the deal, with the original deal under Obama with Iran's government. And that was their flagship, I don't know, the thing that their whole, what they're going to be known for forever. That was a huge accomplishment that Trump just threw out. So you would think that all these people that Biden is picking, they are heavily in favor of bringing back the deal. So those elements exist in Biden's administration.
No, but
right?
how do you know that those elements, the people, because I mean, Biden is one of the people who's also involved in the deal, but wouldn't the people that negotiated the deal in 2015 know that, okay, now 2021 is different, and have a better sense of the kind of leverage that they have and that it's a different situation?
Yeah, but a lot of people say, especially Malley, if you look at his philosophy and the things that he says in speeches, he seems to be very
capitulating.
Yeah, he seems on their sides for sometimes, you know what I mean? Even on Hamas side, apparently, he's very anti-Israeli government, pro anti-hawkish, more very pro not being aggressive. His entire philosophy seems to be more again, maybe he's different now, but that's his history. Okay, so for Biden administration to pick this guy, a lot of people seem that was a huge win for the Islamic Republic, right? But again, this is before Biden openly came out and said that they're not going to go back to the deal unless Iran does this and that. So that was a scary moment for a lot of people. But we'll see. There are especially people that Biden has in his administration that were involved in the original deal. A lot of people assume that they're going to push for moving back to the deal more easily. But there are also a lot of other elements that is pushing Biden the opposite direction, right? Both within his administration, from the Senate, and from United States allies. That's what it's like. So we don't, but again, this is happening really fast. Things might change, okay? I do really want to talk about, really quickly go to Iran's divide within Iran's hardliners, not just with the government.
Yeah, let's do that, and let's end on it, and maybe we can have a sequel on this too as things unfold.
Yeah, okay. So we mentioned Alavi came out and said that, oh, by the way, yeah, Khamenei issued a fatwa, but maybe we'll still need a nuclear weapon, even though that is supposed to be haram according to Khamenei. We don't know what made him say that. We don't know if he's just like, did he have Khamenei's blessing when he went on national TV and said that, or he didn't? Okay, because if he didn't, then this is if he did, that means Khamenei is regretting what he said, and he's trying to test the waters to see if he could undo what he did. So that's significant. But if he didn't, that's also very significant.
Well, has anybody come out against him and contradicted him? Has anybody else come and said that, oh, Mahmoud Alavi should not have said that? And,
yes. A lot of even Raif-e-Pur, for example, came out and tweeted, why is he saying this? This is going to have Raif-e-Pur, one of the hardliners, right?
Okay.
So they're this is
what about Rouhani and Khamenei and those guys?
Not yet. We're waiting to see any response to this. It's I think everybody's dumbfounded. Everybody's what? Within Iran, everyone what is happening, right? But people are a lot of hardliners are saying, why did he do this? This is going to make it very difficult for us to negotiate anything with anybody ever again. This is going to have consequences for Iran for decades.
It's like going back on the Iran deal. It's like you're going back. These guys, Trump went back on the thing, and then these guys going back on the fatwa. But anyway,
so that could be a conflict with Khamenei. It could be not. It could be Khamenei just making somebody say his word without him saying it. So we don't know that. There's definitely a conflict between them and IRGC. One thing that I didn't even get the chance to is the Wall Street Journal coming out and saying that the inspectors have found radioactive traces in places that the international inspectors were not even allowed. That's a major revelation that we didn't even get to talk about today. But again, going back to internal struggles, one thing else that is now was always there a little bit, but now it's becoming more and more public, is Mujtaba Khamenei. This might be its own live stream, okay? Mujtaba Khamenei is Ali Khamenei's son, and for years it was assumed that Ali Khamenei is trying to make sure that he becomes the supreme leader after he dies. And now it seems like those assumptions were true, that he's trying for it. And within the hardliners, a lot of them don't like that. Okay, but the moves that has been made behind the scenes in trying to make this man the next supreme leader after Khamenei is becoming more and more public. Okay, so we had a WikiLeaks revelation a couple of years ago that showed that Mujtaba Khamenei, even though he's nowhere to be seen, he doesn't speak in public, nobody knows his philosophy, his views, is never, he's nowhere. He's behind the scenes. Most Iranians don't even know he exists. Most Iranians, many Iranians, again, not all of them, if you go to them and say Mujtaba Khamenei, they're like, Mujtaba who? But apparently he's a huge element in Iran's politics, right? Apparently he was involved with Iran arming the Taliban. He was involved in working with Qasem Soleimani in arming Shia elements in Iraq. Apparently, he picks presidents in Iran because he's the one that decided to switch from Ghalibaf to Ahmadinejad. Because of his in regards to who's going to be president next. Apparently, democracies are elections be damned. Apparently, Mujtaba Khamenei decides who's the president. Apparently, Mujtaba Khamenei and apparently he picks who's the head of radio and television in Iran behind the scenes, and apparently he's very hawkish when it comes to the use of military in Iranian politics. Okay, and it seems like he's been being introduced to more religious leaders in Iran and more. One signal that more people understood that this guy is trying to be pushed forward as the next supreme leader was how his process of him becoming a major mujtahid was pushed forward, which is not a big, small thing. Like, I don't know if people understand what ijtihad is, and the gates of ijtihad was supposed to be closed, and now the gates of ijtihad are open apparently again. And Khomeini, when the Islamic Revolution in Iran happened, Khomeini introduced some religious leaders being mujtahid. Mujtahid means like somebody that can do ijtihad, and ijtihad means like you introduce new concepts in Islam and new ways of doing Islamic law and jurisprudence, and that's something that was supposed to be closed, and nobody gets to do that anymore, and they opened it. Khomeini also played around with it in his book Velayat Faqih, trying to bring up a new version of Islam, right? New version of not just Shia Islam, right? So Khomeini brought that back, but that was not something that he thought that he wanted people to be able to just that is something that only a few managed. This is like, you level up as a religious leader. This is not something that you would get to, that most people will be able to get to achieve. Like, you shouldn't even be able to count them on one hand, right? But apparently they're pushing Mujtaba Khamenei as a mujtahid, and he's being called as an ayatollah in Qom by other people that know him. Like, he's being referred to as an ayatollah, which is like, how did this happen?
Don't you have to earn that?
Yeah, like he's just like skipping through levels, right? The fact that this is being pushed, like, people like, he's becoming an ayatollah, it just seems very a huge signal to the world that this is the next supreme leader. But I don't know if IRGC approves that. He does have a lot of connections in IRGC. He did. A lot of people think that it was him that stole the election from the reformists, with the help of IRGC, in favor of like the fraud elections that happened was Mujtaba Khamenei's doing. So he seems to be like a major power behind the scenes, and apparently Ali Khamenei's pick for, again, the reason why this is very significant is because one of the major demonizations of the Pahlavis, of the monarchs before the Islamic Revolution, was that leadership should not be inherited, right? It's very funny this coming from Shias, because that's what Sunnis say.
Yeah,
that's what Sunnis say against Shias, like, hey, your imams are imams just because they're son of the next imam, and you guys are now saying the Velayat Faqih. Khomeini come and say, like, how the people should be able to pick their leaders. It shouldn't be a dynasty. It shouldn't be based on inheriting it from your father. So
it's like the caliphs more than the imams.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. But now, if Khamenei wants to pick his son for the next supreme leader, people are like, hey, what happened to all of this? You guys saying the monarchs had it wrong because the son of the king becomes the next king. So that is something that is happening behind the scenes. I could talk about Mujtaba Khamenei for a long time. I don't want to, but I just want to let people know that the bigger struggle, the struggle between the hardliners and the reformists in Iran, has been won. Hardliners won, reformists lost. Okay, the main struggle that we seem to be looking forward to now is the struggle between the hardliners and the hardliners, and that is going to be so interesting. So get your popcorns ready.
And the only guy there's this lone presidential candidate that's running in June. The only guy who's running is also the military advisor to Khamenei, right? Directly.
Who?
Something like that. The guy who's running for president. What's his name?
Well, okay, so there are a whole bunch of them, and I don't know how you're so certain about who's going to win, but
that's what I was. Well, I mean, what I was reading was that he's the only one who's actually contending, who's running properly. But I don't know. Okay, so
you seem to know more about the chances like that. I have to look into that. But my understanding is that the hardliners are going to take over everything. That's currently the prediction. We'll see what's going to happen, right? But yeah, so the elections to a lot of people in Iran are now irrelevant, because they think like it doesn't really matter who wins, reformers or hardliners. The hardliners control everything.
Let me just clear this up. Like, so yeah, this is the Guardian, February 11th, 2021. It's saying the only declared candidate in Iran's presidential elections this June has accused Joe Biden of continuing Donald Trump's foreign policies, and that's Hussein Dagan, who's a military advisor to the Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. So it seems like he's the only declared candidate who's running.
Yeah, but that can change soon.
Yeah, sure.
I have to look into the chances of who's going to win. There are multiple candidates that people are discussing whether they have a chance or not, and all of them are hardliners, right? Okay. There's some other reformers that seem to be saying things that seems like they're going to also be joining the race, but many people think they don't have a chance. Even Hashemi Rafsanjani's daughter seems to be like flirting with it, which is like some people suggesting that, which is ridiculous. It's a woman, But anyways, that's another discussion for another day.
So in your opinion, you're saying that Armin, a woman, should not be president of Iran? That's what you're saying, Armin?
No, I'm saying it's ridiculous.
Clip this. Do we want to cut this part out completely without context? I'm going to put it up on Twitter. Oh, wait. We can't cancel Armin on Twitter anymore.
Yeah,
cancelable.
Wait, I was gonna say something about the election. I totally forgot. Maybe I should bring that up later. Yeah, I don't know. Forgot about that.
Well, I mean, let's wrap it up. We're 8 minutes over. So I just want to ask you, what's going to happen next? Is Biden going to make the first move? Is Iran going to make the first move? What do you see happening with this?
I have no idea right now. Okay, things are
predictions for fun.
Oh, predictions for fun. So Iran can't make the first move. Khamenei said, like, we're not. And when Khamenei says that, it's really hard to undo that. Even though the fatwa seems to be like, okay, so even though we kind of contradicted that today.
Iran was also going to retaliate against Soleimani, right? But then they called them ahead of time and told them to get out of the way. So they just bombed like empty fields and didn't kill anybody. So,
I know, but they still claim that they did. So they can't
so they can do things like that. They can make the first move without without saying that they made the first move.
I think the Biden administration just might just like things as they are right now. Just like their strategy is going to be just containment. Like, we're just going to, you guys make the first move, and they're like, you guys make the first move. And the Biden administration,
how do you contain without a deal? The whole point of the deal was to restrain and contain.
Yeah, but the Biden administration, like, we're just going to stay in this limbo for a while, maybe.
And keep the sanctions on. Well, yeah, keep the sanctions on. That's
just good. We're going to, maybe, I don't know, maybe the Biden administration is like, we're going to go back to the deal once you guys comply. Oh, you're not going to comply? Well, we're just going to stay here.
And keep
that might be there. We might just be here for a while. And the Biden administration might be okay with that, for us to be here for a while. I'm not sure. The things, if something happens, if you don't know when the next crazy general or Ayatollah is going to come and say something, and it's going to change everything. But I think the current strategy is going to be like, we're good. We can wait. We can wait this out.
and does Iran build a weapon at that time? During that time, while that's happening,
Iran is going to have to be like trying to cry out loud. So like try to like figure out how to make it seem to United States that this is not going to, like, we're going to do something so bad. You guys cannot like just stay here.
Well, so far the only thing that's been confirmed is that they're enriching small amounts of uranium, but they were allowed to do that under the deal.
So that assumption,
allowed to do that under the deal.
No, but
already.
not to this level. Not to this level.
It's not at that level though. This is like the amount that they're doing. Apparently, from what I'm seeing, is it's pretty much within what the deal allowed anyway.
So, well, no, actually, they're going to even before the deal. But anyways, and also the whole radioactive stuff that they found in places that the inspectors are not even allowed. Right. That makes it a lot worse. But I think that Iran's government's assumption was by doing this enriching and everything, they're going to push Biden's hands to move in even faster to the deal, but it did the opposite, and in fact it's making more of the people that used to pushing for the deal now turn against them, which was the Europeans. Like the Europeans are even like before Biden administration, it used to be like Trump was aggressive against Iran, and the Europeans were like, "Hey, let's play nice with them." And now the Europeans are even more aggressive against the Islamic Republic, compared even to the Biden administration. So you lost the pretend friends that you even had before. Like I think the Iran's government assumed like they turned Europe against the United States. They had no idea that, they overestimated their power. They didn't understand, it was just Trump. United States and Europe, they're allies. You guys are just like you guys are outside of that circle. You turn Europe against the United States. They're natural allies. You guys are the outsiders. That's not, you overplayed your hand. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I think that let's wrap it up there. Oh my God, there's so much we can go. I am so. Can I say I'm excited by this? Like excited.
Yeah.
I'm just excited. Like this entire region. I'm so glad that Trump is out of the headlines. Well, I mean, he's being impeached, but who cares? Like I could care less about that. I don't think it really matters that much. I haven't even been properly following it. But I think what's happening now in the Middle East, and I think what's happening in Iran, and what's happening in a lot of these areas, what's happening with China is more interesting now than ever before. I think the sea change, there's like this amazing transformation happening in that region. And I really can't tell where it's going to go. I don't know where it's going to end up.
Okay, so, all I can tell you is that if anybody tells you definitely that what's going to happen, they're full of crap. Okay?
They're full of crap. They don't know. Nobody knows.
Even if they ended up being right after if it happens, don't use that as an excuse to be like, oh, they know what they're talking about. They got lucky. Okay, there's just too many moving parts right now, and a lot of the moving part is happening behind the scenes. Okay, so if you're predicting things, you have to become very, very, very skeptical about your predictions. It's still fun to predict, but remain very skeptical. There's so many moving things. A lot of it is not even visible. So, we don't know what's going to happen, but it's very interesting.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, man. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So I got to say, we've done hundreds of episodes, and there's times when I think I'm like, okay, this one was really, really interesting. And I can tell in the past there's certain episodes that I really, really enjoy. I like the Jerry Coyne one. I remember I love that one. And there's some that actually stand out. The Tom Holland one is another one that really stood out. This is one of those. I think that this is absolutely fascinating. So I really, really love this. If any of you are listening to this and you're not a patron, you're listening to this on audio on your podcast app, wherever, please do take a second to go to patreon.com/SJME. And if you can support us, you can do it for as little as $1 a month, and you'll get like 5 episodes that you can watch live as they happen. You can ask questions and you can participate in
this episode, we didn't let people ask questions because we ran out of time. But usually we do.
Yeah,
Should we answer 2 questions?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you want to answer the last Love Bunny one. I mean, that's not really a question, but I'm pretty sure that you're going to want that.
Oh yeah, Love Bunny.
Armin looks nice today. Heart.
Yeah. Thank you.
There you go. And he does. He always looks nice.
Let me just answer one question.
Do it. Okay.
Does this?
Shuvo.
Should
I read it out?
Yeah, you read it. I can.
Shuvo Das is saying, does this decision of not continuing with the deal have anything to do with the assassination of Soleimani and the mishaps followed by the plane shot down, the protests? And yeah, I think we talked about how that shows a kind of weakness, right?
Yeah, I mean, not really. Not continuing with the deal by who? By the United States or by Iran? But neither.
I assumed it was the United States.
No, I just think that they just know that Iran is at a weak position. I mean, it contributed to showing how weak and pathetic Iran's government is right now. So
yeah,
maybe it did help a little bit. Yeah. Wait, are you saying if you corner?
This is Alex of Oz. He's asking the question. Wait, are you saying that if you corner a cat might do something different from when it's running free, is announcing that Iran is going to build a nuclear weapon? Well, they're saying that, aren't they? They're the ones saying that. Mahmoud Alavi is saying that if you corner a cat, he's basically saying, hey guys, we're a cat, okay? A cat, another term for cat, this is not a cuss word, is pussy. Anyway, so they're saying that, we are basically a cat, and if you corner us, what we said in the past that we would do is that we will never build nuclear weapons because it's haram, it's a fatwa. But if you corner us, then we might do something different.
No, he said it won't be our fault, and it won't be our fault because we're forced in that position. So if you're forced in the position, it's not like he's trying to come up with a way to, like, if it's haram, it's not haram if you're forced. It's not our fault, it's their fault. Okay, so the last question, Susanna is saying, do you think Khamenei's second son going to choose the next president this time too? I don't know.
Susanna's really tuned into this shit.
I have no idea. I think Khamenei and his son Ali and Mujtaba sit together and they just pick what happens and they try to make it so that it's a pretend democracy. It's a fake democracy. Somebody else is making these decisions. Cool. Anyways, we're gonna go. And don't let anybody tell you like, oh, but they at least have a democracy. Okay, that's what makes a dictatorship that has a fake democracy is a more lasting one. Okay, so do not let people like Kyle Kulinski or others say like, well, they have a democracy, it's people's choice. It's not the people's choice. Okay,
Kyle Kulinski said that Iran has a democracy.
Yeah. They're like, oh, these are the people chose their president, and that's what they like.
Well, no. What's amazing is they have incredible turnout. Iran has incredible turnout every time there's an election.
So. That's what I was going to say about this election. This election, the reason a lot of people also think that the hardliners are going to just walk, like it's an obvious win for them, is because the people used to have hope in the reformists, right? That's why they voted for them. This time, they're going to set this one up because they're like, screw the reformists and screw the hardliners. So the only people that are going to go vote, I mean, not the only, the main people that are going to go vote are going to be the hardliners who are in with the government. The reformers have no, and that's why a lot of people think that every time close to the election, the hardliners let the reformers run their mouth and become very anti-government with their speech openly. Because they want people to come to vote. There's a false hope. Like the reformers are the false hope that the people have to go show that the election turnout is high, right? So every time it gets closer to election, you see a lot of reformers come out and say so many anti-government things that it seems like they shouldn't be able to get away with saying, right? They're like, why is nobody arresting this person? It's because the hardliners are loosening their grip, so that they give people some hope and they come and vote for the reformers. That's what happened. Anyways, let's end this here. And guys, if you don't want to support us financially, if you can't afford it or everything, just leave us a review on iTunes, okay? Do that. And subscribe to our YouTube videos, the YouTube channel. You're muted. You're talking.
Yeah, I was going to say smash that subscribe button.
Oh, yeah.
And totally like assault the bell, the notification bell. Don't ask for consent.
Abuse.
Consent. Yeah, just forget about that. Just go and just smash. This is what you're supposed to say on YouTube. So there you go. Everybody, thank you very much for joining us. Hashtag be best as always. And
be best, everyone.
Be best.
We're never gonna let go.
Yeah, that's a thing.
That's the best thing we got from the Trump administration.
Be best.
Be best.
By the way, before we go, did you know actually, I'll tell you this afterwards. Okay, guys.
The
everybody.
Secular Jihadists have been made possible thanks to the Illuminati and the covert support of Israel and the CIA. That's what we have been told, but we haven't received our checks yet. If you like what we do, please support us. Share the podcast with your friends. Write and tweet us with topic and guest suggestions. Or head over to secularjihadists.com and give $1 or more for exclusive access to live video. Have your questions read and answered on the air, and more. Till next time, may the flying spaghetti monster be with you.